Ice machines can be fun. And notice we're at 0 PSI. Come up here, we've only recovered 6 pounds, or almost 7 pounds. And we're at 0 PSI on here too. They always recommend 3-point recoveries on these guys because of all the check valves and different things. So I'm gonna put some solenoid magnets on the solenoid valves back here, and let's see if there's still some more gas in this guy. We have sensed we're still recovering. We're at 15.5. Okay, so those 3-point recoveries are no joke, okay? Or using the solenoid magnets. You have to do that because there's extra gas trapped in the system.
This video is brought to you by SPORLAN. Quality, integrity, and tradition.
So we're called out on an ice machine because the hose popped off and it was flooding water everywhere, but I'm curious if these spray rails are plugged up, causing the back pressure to, because it had the clamp on it, but it blew it off with the clamp on. So I bet you anything we pull these up and they're plugged up inside, so I'm loosening them right now. So they're not as bad as I thought they were going to be. They're definitely dirty. But I also, and I'll show you in a little while, this hose is also shrinking. So in the place that they had the hose ran before, which was over on the other side of the suction line, I don't know if that's factory or not, the hose was almost too short. But it's really weird because these spray rails are bowing too. They're like that. So this machine's just old is what it is. But I probably want to replace that hose, replace the spray rails, and give the machine a proper cleaning. That there's a bunch of gunk everywhere, so I just gave it a quick wipe down, watch it make a batch of ice real quick, and then get out of here. So we're back again today. I had previously given a quote to replace the hoses because they were shrinking, and then also to clean the machine, and they didn't approve it. But then in the meantime, now they're saying that it's not making regular ice, and it's too thick and too thin and not making a full sheet. So I don't know what else to tell them if I told them the machine needed to be clean, but we're gonna go through it. The ice is a little weird looking too, which could be a cleaning issue for sure. And this thing's like in a harvest, and if you look at it, it's making really weird ice. And then come over here, it's only like half a sheet. It's not very, yeah, it's probably gonna be a refrigerant related issue. More than likely. Something like this usually start just by recovering the charge when you think you have an issue and then verifying that it's accurate and adjusting accordingly. But we'll get back here and double check, and then we'll do a leak search, and then we'll recover. I'm making an assumption because of the ice quality. The first thing I'm going to do is I'll put gauges on it, but oftentimes when it comes to the Ice-O-Matic machines, issues like this are refrigerant related, meaning that it's low on charge or something. So very quickly before I put my service gauges on it, I check the most common places for a leak: the accumulator, back down on the dryer. Nothing, no picking it up. Just jumped up on the roof real quick just to leak check the Aeroquip fittings right here. Nothing. Okay. Turned off the condenser, just did a quick pass on the condenser, not seeing anything. But one thing that's bothering me is that this whole thing is vibrating pretty bad. There's something out of balance, something in that motor and blade that's causing this thing to vibrate. So I did, or I'll write that down and put that as part of my quote to put a new fan motor and fan blade on this guy. But I don't think that's causing our issues right now, so we're gonna further diagnose. Every once in a while I'm getting a hit right at this Schrader. Right here. And one of the caps was missing the gasket. So that very well could be our leak. And it's just a very small, every once in a while going off. So we'll keep that in mind as we're doing it. But we're gonna go ahead and get the recovery machine going and recover the charge and verify that it's the total charge of 272 ounces.
So I recovered almost 17 pounds out of this. The charge isn't going to be the problem. So we're going to go ahead and put the gas back in and start it up. All right, I watched it go through another cycle, and it's just not consistent. It keeps going thick, thin, thick, thin. So there's definitely something going on in here, okay? Now, when we come over here and we look at the other side, it's still doing the same thing, but it's kind of like patchy. This machine does not make solid ice from top to bottom all at once. It does move around. Now, if we look at the gauges right now, this machine is not initiating the harvest cycle at the correct pressure. It's supposed to have a pressure control that initiates the harvest timer at 37 psi, and then the timer function starts. Well, this initiated harvest at 77 psi, so clearly the pressure control is faulty. If we come up over the top right now, I'll show you the pressure control and the timer. They're right here, the pressure control on the right, the timer on the left. That timer starts counting down after the pressure control initiates, after it senses the pressure at once. So we're going to go ahead and quote to change the pressure control and the timer as a set, okay? I really don't want to have to adjust on this pressure control. It comes factory set. This machine is from 2015. Why should I have to adjust this pressure control now? It's leading me to think that there's a faulty pressure control. Something's going on within that control. So we're going to go ahead and submit a quote, and I'm going to try to make a temporary adjustment though.
Now we're in harvest now, and this one's going to be way too thick because I had to make some adjustments, but we're going to wait for it to drop out. Let's see what happens if it actually pushes it off, because it's super thick at the moment. Okay, so it drops 2 full sheets. Now we're gonna start a timer and see how a batch from scratch goes. Still making it way too thick now. It's like you can't win with this thing. It's either too thin or too thick. So repair today starts with an ice machine that was supposed to be emptied out last night because this was a scheduled job. We have to pull the whole machine out to be able to do our repairs, disconnect the drain lines, so we got to remove all the ice. So that's the fun part. We just find a corner where it's not going to be affecting the customers by their trash cans usually or something. Just dump it all right here. In the bushes is the best because then it can actually water the plants. But sometimes we'll just throw it in the trash can area or something too. So the problem with this machine, this is the bottom ice, but the ice is way too thin and it's hollow cubes. They're not getting very thick, so the production is really low, especially when it gets hot. And we've tried adjusting the timer and it won't adjust. So this thing uses a pressure control and a timer to set the thickness. So today we're gonna be changing the pressure control, the timer. We're gonna be doing a proper cleaning on this machine and changing a bunch of hoses that have shrunk. So that's the plan at least. All right, we purged the tank all the way to here. So basically, like I've shown a million times, I just open up my high side, let the vapor, because it's vapor at this point, come all the way through, and we leave that one loose. Then once it starts spewing, we close it. We opened up the tank, we got the scale on it. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and hit start. And go ahead and recover the charge on this guy, and then we're gonna start getting this ready, changing the hoses up in here, and doing everything we can. The whole machine is gonna have to come out 3 feet. We gotta get a ladder behind it, filter, dryer, pressure control, all that stuff from behind the machine. So it kind of sucks, and we'll have to disconnect the drain when we do that. The water lines is flexible, so I think we can leave the water inlet still connected. All right, we have new hoses because these ones are actually shrinking over time, which does happen. And it used to run on the side of here and it just became a problem. So I had to pinch it between here. We've also got new spray rails because they're sagging in the middle too. Again, over time, that's gonna happen. Yeah, so we're gonna do all that. Then when we're all finished today, we're gonna run a cleaning cycle through this guy. The evaporator doesn't look too bad, but there's a little bit of scale on there, but we'll do all that. We'll get rid of all this nastiness right here, you know, be thorough. But again, we got to do, I'll probably do that after. I'm just going to change the hoses for now. Ice machines can be fun. And notice we're at 0 psi. Come up here, we've only recovered 6 pounds or almost 7 pounds, and we're at 0 psi on here too. They always recommend 3-point recoveries on these guys because of all the check valves and different things. So I'm gonna put some solenoid magnets on the solenoid valves back here, and let's see if there's still some more gas in this guy. And the machine actually turned on, so I had to go find the breaker and turn it off, but look at that. So you can't trust just because these things are empty, you know, you think everything's good and you're done recovering. You'll get a rude awakening when you go to braze on this guy, because this thing takes a lot of gas. So we can see it right here. 272 ounces. So we're nowhere near being fully charged. We're gonna go ahead and start it, and we'll continue the recovery process. So always check if you need to do 3-point recovery and or use solenoid magnets to open up the flow on these ice machines. All right, this is one of those restaurants that has national filter changing companies do ice machine cleanings too. And look at this stuff. This is a clean spot right here. That's simply just back on this side right here where nobody ever cleans. Look at, all right, so when you do these ice machine cleanings, don't just assume because you see right here it looks clean. You gotta get back here and scrub. Now we're still gonna hit that with water too and ice machine cleaner, but I'm getting the big stuff off, and so I can put the spray rails back on. Just kind of wiping this down. See the new hose placement, I have it going where it's supposed to go through the side. It'll go just like that. And we'll clean all the rest of this up here in a little bit. All right, got the hoses changed for now. We're not gonna go any further with that, but I wanna point something out, okay? We're still recovering. Remember, it was at 0 PSI at 7 pounds, okay? We have since, we're still recovering, we're at 15.5, okay? So those 3-point recoveries are no joke, okay? Or using the solenoid magnets. You have to do that because there's extra gas trapped in this system. All right, we are just about done. We're still pulling down. It's about 3 PSI. We're gonna give it a little more time. Went ahead and pulled the water filters so that way we can slide the machine out. We're gonna leave the line set connected and just stretch it. Yeah, so we're just about ready. Just waiting for this recovery to finish up. All right, I just finished my pump out, and my total recovered amount was 17 pounds, 0.25 ounces. So that's significant difference from the 7 pounds that it initially shut off at. So now we're gonna go ahead and disconnect all the gauges and everything. Also, I didn't know if I said too, I did use Schrader core removers too to make it go faster. So, all right, at this point, we're gonna disconnect everything like I said and get this bin pulled out and get started on the replacement parts. Part of this repair too was to replace fan motor and fan blade. It was vibrating really bad. So we got a new one, got it in. We'll test current when we're all done, but everything's good up here. So yeah, we're just gonna put the cover on, and then it'll take 2 people to get that machine moved out of the way. All right, so we got it pulled out, and it's tricky because we got a TV screen monitor right there. You don't want to damage it. You can see why I pulled out the water filters. Once you get it out, you still have that support beam in your way because I'm gonna have to climb underneath. So what we're gonna do is take that support beam off, but you want to do that after you've moved the machine. You don't want to be moving it with that support beam loose because then the legs can buckle and stuff. All right, we're back here now. Drain line's disconnected. You can see the refrigeration lines, there's enough slack. Water line, there's plenty. This is the back of my machine. I already took the cover off. Make sure you put the screws somewhere where they're not going to get lost. You can see the solenoid magnets that I popped on. At this point, we're going to change this pressure control right here. And then the filter dryer too. So yeah, looks pretty straightforward. Looks like it's an identical pressure control too. So we'll have to change it, make an adjustment, set it, you know, and go from there. It's gonna sweat right into there. It doesn't look difficult at all. Just kind of getting everything prepped, getting everything sanded up, dryer sanded up, pressure control, new one installed, just kind of set over here. Getting some nitrogen out. We're gonna hook that up on the front, purge that through, sweat these guys in, and hopefully push this guy back. And like I said, the hard part's going to be adjusting that pressure control because they don't come adjusted, so you have to field adjust them, which is silly. All right, got the dryer installed. So we had forgotten to take the low side hose off the gauges, and that's why we saw that flare out in the very beginning, but it's all good. So basically we're purging with nitrogen, but we didn't take off the low side hose, so it had nowhere to go. So we had a little blowout. But it's okay. All is well. Nobody got hurt. Live and learn. All right, so I'm gonna change out this pressure control real quick, and then we're gonna get the vacuum pump running and then start cleaning it, pushing it back, and all that good stuff. All right, got the SPORLAN catch-all. Now we went with an oversized dryer. I like to go oversized, but just understand, okay, we went with a 16 cubic inch catch-all dryer, okay? Extra capacity to catch any contaminants potentially in the system. We verified before I did it, I marked the direction. That way I wouldn't get confused, so that way we have the right direction on there. Also, you can see we got the solenoid magnets, SPORLAN solenoid magnet on there. We have one up here too. That way, you know, that's how we obtained our quote-unquote 3-point recovery without hooking up a third port. Was just simply open these guys up. What we probably could have done was we could have gotten back here and got on the liquid line service port, but there's no need for that because, like I said, just hit the solenoid valve. Yeah, so this is good. Double check the braze joints. They look good. Everything's cool. We're gonna start assembling the back of the machine. We'll do everything else from the front of the machine once we get it pushed back. So I climbed out, got all my stuff out. We had to put that center crossbar back in there because now we got to push it back, and then we got to try to connect all the drain lines. Luckily we have these marks on the floor to know where it originally was, but when we're pushing it back, we got to make sure we don't hit that TV and, you know, the water lines and all that stuff. But that's why we emptied out the bin. All right, we got to set up where I'm using the big, the True Blue hoses, 2 going to the T, then coming down to the long hose. That way I've only got 1 hose going here. Something I want to point out is I put a micron gauge here, but this is not the right placement for a micron gauge, okay? This essentially just tells you if your pump's working. You typically want to test it when there's no hoses attached. But I want to show you, that says 1023. When you come up here, and this says 14,000. And it's still pulling down. So that is going to be closer to the pump, therefore it's going to read what the pump is doing, the actual suction on the pump, not the vacuum level of the system, okay? So keep that in mind. Micron gauge placement is very, very important. Typically you want it at the furthest point of the system. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm pulling high and low, and remember I have the solenoid magnet still on the other side. Eventually I'm gonna close the low side, so that way it's only pulling from the high side and we're getting a true reading on here, okay? Once we get it down to about 1500 microns, then I'll close the low side and start just pulling from the high side. We're gonna let that run for a little while. I imagine it'll take 45 minutes to an hour. We're gonna go ahead and clean the machine while we're waiting for that. All right, we're doing a quick cleaning on this guy. So I've already hooked up the filter system. That's good. Water's back on, we're flowing, power's back on. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and add some cleaner. We're using the Refrigeration Technologies Viper cleaner. Nickel safe, it's not gonna hurt anything. Actually does a really good job. Pour a little bit right here because there's a bunch of calcium. And then, yeah, we're gonna let it circulate for a little bit. Then we'll do a couple dumps. We'll scrub down the inside. All that while we're just letting the vacuum pump run. So these floats don't last very long. This one's fairly new. That's why I didn't change it. But you always wanna pull these things out, turn off the water, clean them, and replace them as necessary. When they get calcified inside, it's time to change them. These things are cheap little floats. So, but this one I think is okay. We're just wiping it down, letting everything circulate, like I said. All right, it only took so much gas, surprisingly only a couple pounds, and then I had to turn it on. So now we've got it on and I'm charging through the low side, but we just gotta make sure we don't overload the compressor, but we keep adding gas. And what happens when it's going to low pressure like that is the timer for the defrost is gonna happen and it's gonna go into a harvest. So we just need to get it charged up. And once we get it charged up, then we'll start adjusting the harvest pressure control and stuff. So it was kind of struggling to take the last bit of refrigerant, so I actually turned it off, let it go into pump down, and opened up the low side. And I'm letting it suck every little bit. 272 ounces is my full charge. So I'm just letting it suck every little bit of vapor out of that tank while it's trying to pump down right now. You don't want to do that for too long, but it's a good little trick to get it fully charged. All right, I actually didn't have to adjust the pressure control, and it seems like it's doing pretty good. So let's see what the ice looks like when it comes out and see if the thickness is right. All I did was adjust the timer to the factory setting. So let's see, we're gonna watch it drop and then we'll investigate the ice. So this is what came out, and it looks pretty darn good to me. I would say just a hair on the thick side, but I'm not gonna worry about that. So before, the cubes were hollow, and no matter what I did to the timer, it just wouldn't go thicker. So that's looking pretty good. So we're gonna watch a couple more cycles, probably 2 or 3 more, and then hopefully we'll be wrapping it up. Ice is looking good. Last but not least, you want to take some sanitizer. So we use the new Calgon IMS3 ice machine sanitizer, and you can see it foams up, but you just want to sanitize, dilute it, flush it out, just to make sure you clean any, and it runs all the way through and cleans anything that we touched, right? So that way it just keeps bacteria and different things out of the machine. We're gonna burn all this ice, but the consistency is great. Little sheet, nice and good, looks good. That's a great batch of cubes. But yeah, all this is like 4 batches. We're gonna burn it all with a bucket because that wasn't sanitized water. So that was just our test batch. We now have another batch running, so we're gonna flush all this stuff and melt it, and then they'll be good to go, and we'll give them the keys.
Okay, I do my best to educate the customer and give them all their options. In this situation, this ice machine was manufactured in 2015. It's an Ice-O-Matic. It's not the greatest ice machine in the world, but that's their choice to choose their ice machines. They buy them themselves. I will, however, say I prefer this Ice-O-Matic ice machine over the new series Ice-O-Matics, because the new series have a circuit board. They're rather difficult to get into when they're shoved into a hole like this one is. Accessing the circuit board is just problematic. So I prefer this older series over the newer series. The older series is pretty dumb, meaning that, you know, it doesn't really have very many safeties built into it. It doesn't have a circuit board at all. It just uses relays and timers and different things like that. Okay, so, but these are not my favorite ice machine, but not necessarily because they're horrible. I just don't work on them very often, so it takes a little while. I mean, I've worked on many Ice-O-Matics over my career. They can be a pain in some different ways, but so can every ice machine. Okay, so anyways, I gave the customer originally, I went out there for the hose blowing off, told them, hey, I repaired it temporarily. We should change the hoses. They didn't approve the quote. A few weeks later, we got another service call, and this time they were complaining about ice production. Okay, so then I went through and I tried my best, but I found that the ice production was very erratic. I'd make an adjustment to the timer. It'd go thick really for a lot of like 2-3 cycles, and then all of a sudden it'd be really thin again. It took them a good 2 months to approve the quote to repair everything. And I was blown away that they actually approved the quote, because it was rather expensive. And this customer is actually pretty good usually at approving to replace these ice machines. Like, they're very proactive on replacing their equipment. So I was kind of blown away. Even still doing all the repair work today, I was like, whoa, that's a lot of work for that machine. And it's funny too, because the on-site manager, when I was done, he was like, hey, so what do you think? This get us another 5 years? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. You know, I said, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't have compressor failures in the future and different things like that, because this ice machine's just timing out. I mean, you don't get 20 years out of equipment anymore. Okay. This was manufactured in 2015. We're in 2021. Yeah. It's about time for this thing to move on out and move into the next one, you know, put in a new machine or something like that. I don't sell them the machines. I know a lot of people are going to ask why. It's just the type of restaurant that they are. Big chains like this, they buy their own equipment, and that's just part of the game you got to deal with. Okay. So, the second time I gave them the quote, it took them a couple months to fix it. To approve it. And then once they approved it, of course, we're in the middle of COVID and all this crazy stuff. You know, it is currently September 8th of 2021 right now. So this was probably approved in July, maybe August. I think it was July though. It still took like a month and some change to get all the parts. Of all things, we were waiting on the timer initiate timer. That took forever to get. Anyways, regardless, we got it. I got it a couple weeks ago, and I've just been super slammed. So today was the first chance that I had. We scheduled everything like we're supposed to do. We let the customer know, hey, save all your ice, turn off the machine, throw the other stuff out. And of course, when we get there, of all things, they saved ice. Their walk-in freezer was full of buckets of ice, but they didn't turn off the machine and they didn't empty it out. So it is what it is. I had plenty of room in my quote because I know this stuff happens all the time. Whenever you ask these guys to do things, they never do. Okay. So I had plenty of room in my quote. I had another guy with me because this was a 2-person job, and we just went ahead and proceeded with saving a little bit more ice for them, filling up all their ice things, and then just dump the rest of it out on the back dock. So, and then as far as the repair goes, it's just a systematic approach to this. I understand what I'm going to have to do, and you think ahead of time. You know, hey, we're going to need to do this, but before we do this, we need to do these 3 things, you know? So you just kind of be ready, right? And, you know, mistakes do happen. It's life. It is what it is. Okay. So I try to have everything ready. We move the bin out, you know, and the guy that was helping me, like I had him on the roof changing the condenser fan motor and stuff and handing me tools when I was on the other side of the machine, because of course it's going to be a pain to go back and forth, you know? So, but we did make a mistake right in the beginning. We set the system up to purge nitrogen through it. Okay. And, I own the mistake because it's my apprentice that was with me and he's learning, and that's okay. Okay. Again, mistakes happen, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be embarrassed by. It's how we grow, right? We learn from it. So I asked him to go ahead and hook up the nitrogen on there. Okay. And he did a great job. He's seen me do it a few times, but the one thing I didn't ask him to do, and it just takes time, and I'm pretty sure he'll remember now, was he didn't take the low side hose off of the service gauges. So we were pushing nitrogen at a very low flow through the process hoard, or the yellow port. We had the high side opened, right? So the high side gauge was opened, and it was passing through the high side into the system, and it should have been coming out the low side, but we didn't take the hose off of the low side gauges, which is what we needed to do, because in order to flow nitrogen, you need the nitrogen to flow completely through the system and out of the system. Okay, you don't want to pressurize the system, and that's inadvertently what we did. Okay, we did not take the low side off, and so when I first started brazing, now granted, when I was doing the brazing montage, I sped it up 50%, but when I was brazing, I started to hear a sound when I was unsweating that dryer, and then poof, a little flame came out, and then, yeah, it just kind of popped out. But again, I was prepared for that, because whenever I'm brazing, you always prepare for the worst. Wet towels nearby, fire extinguisher nearby, just kind of be ready, and don't put yourself in a position. I was cramped behind that machine, but I was off to the side. I was in a position that if there was going to be an oil flare out or something like that, it wasn't going to cover me in oil and burn me to death or anything. You know, so we're always prepared for that stuff, right? Because stuff happens. Sometimes you hit pockets in the system, all kinds of things. Okay, so anyways, we moved past it. We were able to finish brazing everything in, cool everything off, put it all back together, and then just slowly backed out from underneath the machine. And the cool thing, like I said in the video, was I had those marks underneath the machine. So I was able to push it back to where the existing machine was. Now, something I'm going to tell you, one of my pet peeves, all right, is when customers see me move equipment and they think that is their free chance to clean underneath that equipment. I usually say no, okay, because I have to work in that area. Had the customer cleaned underneath there when I had it out, they would have cleaned off those spots also where the ice machine sat. Okay. So when they come up to me and they're like, oh, you got the machine out. Let me get back there and clean there. It's like, no. You need to do that another time, bud, because I'm going to be laying in this. You know, I don't need it to be all wet back there. So, I didn't let them clean anything. I was able to push the machine back using those spots, arrange it, hook up the drain lines. Now those drain lines, I had put unions on those the last time because I've done a leak repair on this machine before. I don't know if I made a video about it or not. I might have, but I had a filter dryer. One of the more common places for refrigerant leaks on these machines is when the filter dryer, the placement of it rubs against the bottom of the machine, and over years it starts to rub out a hole in the side of the filter dryer, and then it rusts out too. You also get rust spots on the accumulator. That can be a leak point on these machines at the same time. But anyways, we got the machine pushed back in, the unions lined right up, we were good to go. We started our evacuation, and while we were doing the evacuation, I was cleaning the machine because, again, multitasking. The first time when I was recovering, I started changing all the hoses. And, you know, my the guy that was helping me went up onto the roof and was changing the condenser fan motor when I was doing that. And then when we pushed the machine back and hooked up the vacuum pump, the guy that was with me went and took a lunch. And then I started cleaning the machine, and then when he came back from lunch, I went to lunch. So, and then he could watch the machine make ice and all that stuff. So we try to be as efficient as possible with our time. Again, in my opinion, this ice machine should have been replaced. I foresee problems in the future, but hey, you know what? It's okay. That's the customer's choice to make. Just because I bid them a big picture quote doesn't mean they're always going to approve the big picture quote, right? And that's okay. So in this instance, now granted, I did not quote a new ice machine. I just gave them a price and said, I highly suggest you guys consider changing this ice machine. And they chose not to. Now, maybe, I don't know their mindset, but I will say that it is getting rather difficult to get new equipment these days. So maybe there's a possibility that it was hard to get an ice machine. Maybe they considered replacing it. Who knows? Okay. So there's no sense in being angry at them. It's okay if this machine breaks in another couple months. It's not my fault. And it'll just be another quote that we put into the system. And maybe then they'll choose to change it. If a compressor fails or something like that, it is what it is. And the reason why I'm leaning saying the compressor fails or whatever, judging by the amount of abuse that this compressor takes, running all the time, there's some rust spots on it and stuff. That's why I'm saying I think that compressor is going to fail within a year or two would be my best guess, my educated guess. But hey, it is what it is, guys. All we can do is just give the customer the information and let them make those decisions. And again, try to be as efficient as possible. I was frustrated that they didn't empty out the ice, but it's just something I've come to realize that when you expect them to do something, they don't, okay? It is what it is. It's life. It's how it works. I'm thankful that they're calling me to do their service work and they're not calling someone else. Simple as that. I can choose to be angry. I can choose to get mad at them. I can choose to give them attitude and be upset with the on-duty manager that walked in, you guys didn't clean this out, all that stuff. But hey, if I continue to do things like that, they wouldn't be calling me back anymore. So I have a choice to make. Either accept the fact that there's going to be silliness because it's a restaurant. That's how restaurants work. There's always silliness going on, okay? There's no sense in being angry, getting upset, throwing a fit, or anything like that, okay? It is what it is. Just remember that. Learn from this kind of stuff because, like I said, I had plenty of room in my quote. Plenty of labor room to spend 2 hours or hour between the two of us emptying out that machine. We had plenty of room, so it's okay. I tried to get them to empty it out. There goes that Coke nose, but they didn't. So, it is what it is. Hey guys, I really, really appreciate you guys making it to the end of this video. You guys, all of you are amazing. The support that I've gotten from you guys is absolutely awesome. I'm so thankful for it. I am humbled by it every single day, and the emails and comments that you send me. Guys, I am a service technician. It's so bizarre to me to think that you guys like to watch this stuff and you learn stuff. I mean, I know that there's knowledge that I give, right? But it's just so interesting because I see myself as just a normal service technician. I mean, I really am, right? All of you guys have the ability to do this kind of stuff too. I encourage everybody out there to try to share the knowledge that they have. I happen to have a platform, but my platform was really small at one point. It was non-existent at one point. And all I did was put myself out there and started sharing my information. I try to be respectful. I try to stay non-political, and I just put the information out there. I don't try to be the best because I'm not, and I never will be. I don't spend ridiculous amounts of time. I mean, I do spend a lot of time on this. I shouldn't say that, but I don't try really hard to be the best content creator, anything like that, guys. I just make a video. I don't put, crazy editing in it. I just cut and clip the videos out and, just share my thoughts at the end. So I encourage everybody out there to share the knowledge that you have. You're not going to be replaced if you share your knowledge. So do so. Okay. Remember something, this world is insane right now, okay? There's too much negativity. There's too much hate. There's too much animosity out there. Guys, be kind to one another. It's as easy as that, okay? Go out of your way to do something nice for someone else. Buy someone's coffee, give an apprentice, a used tool that you have that would benefit him. Do something, guys. Hold a door open for someone. It's as easy as that. We need more kindness in this world. We truly do. Okay. So be kind to one another. If you guys haven't already and you're interested in doing so, check out my website, hvacrvideos.com. We have merchandise available on there, hats, beanies, shirts, all that good stuff. As the fall's coming up, I keep saying this, but we have plenty of these beanies going on right now. We have cuffed and non-cuffed, all black on the back, extra stretchy. They fit normal heads. Check them out if you have any interest. It's a great way to support the channel. There's a couple other ways you guys can support the channel too. The simplest way is watching these videos from beginning to end without skipping through anything. That's the easiest way. Go to my website, hvacrvideos.com. You can support the channel there. You can support the channel via Patreon. You can support it via YouTube channel memberships, via PayPal. TrueTechTools.com. If you're interested in purchasing any tools, you can use my offer code BIGPICTURE to save 8% on your order. When you do that, I get a small commission from that. And also, if you email me, I can generate an affiliate link. You can still use my offer code BIGPICTURE, and I get a little bit more of a commission, and it just kind of helps out the channel. True Tech Tools is also a great place. The employees there, the owners there, they're all awesome. They're great people. They have good quality tools, great customer service. So please check out TrueTechTools.com. Do me a favor, check out SPORLAN on YouTube. It's SPORLAN Video. They got great videos on their YouTube channel. Consider subscribing. It'll help them. They'd appreciate that love if you could, okay? And, of course, Refrigeration Technologies. I couldn't not mention them, okay? They make great, high-quality chemicals that are safe, you know, and they just work. Great stuff, okay? You guys are amazing. Be good humans. Okay, be kind to one another. Let's have some more positivity and let's get rid of the negativity. There's just so much of it right now. So just be kind to one another, and we will catch you guys all on the next one, okay?